Alright, we're going to do a tomato review today on this tomato right here, and this is called the Black Dragon tomato. Again, I don't have any information in front of me, so you'll have to just scroll down to the description and read below, or visit the website where you can purchase the seeds and also read more about the Black Dragon. The purpose of this video is just to give you an idea of the taste and my opinion on it and how I'm rating the tomato and that kind of a thing, and that's really all the purpose. All the other details are inside the description. There's no point in me going over all of that because I could spend 20 minutes to an hour on each video, and that's just too long. I just don't have that kind of time to do that. So anyway, here's the Black Dragon. Let's give you a look at the tomato first. We'll pick a nice one here. Pick two of them. This is what they look like when they really start to get ripe. They really start to get a nice red ripening color like this. And you can pick them a little early and let them ripen on the table like I've been doing because of the birds. And they're copper toned like this. So they'll eventually turn to a nice mahogany red like that. And you can see they have nice dark shoulders on top, which is very nice. They will crack from the rain, so keep that in mind. But they do heal over relatively pretty quick, so they do crack. And it's a nice sized plum tomato. I'm going to be honest with you. These are pretty big. They look very similar to the Black Russian tomato, but they're not quite the same thing. The shape of these tomatoes are a little bit off. Black Russian tomatoes generally, if you look here, you can kind of see there's a rib here. It's almost that's right where the bichamber is right there. And the seeds will be on this side and that side, and this is where the rib is. You don't see that with the regular black plums. It's just one smooth, uniform thing. These are they're kind of blocky shaped a little bit. If you look at them, you can kind of see they're not perfectly round, whereas the Russian black plum is almost perfectly round. And we'll give you a look at the inside. And you can see it's got them black characteristics in there. And of course there's the wilding that I always try to talk about. This time it's in the center, but if you look on the edges, if I can get you to see in there, you look on the edges, you see the wilding and the rinds, you know that's some kind of a heirloom type variety. Flesh almost looks translucent. You can almost see right through it. If you look right in there, you could see like the little thing going around, some of the veins. And it's a wonderful tomato. So we're gonna do a taste test on this, and we're gonna see how that's gonna do. But first, we need to do a Brix. And so the purpose of the Brix meter is for people who are generally purchasing the tomatoes either for a commercial reason or for your own personal reason. They like to know the Brix because they want to know what kind of sugar content these tomatoes will generally have. Though, what I will say to you, if you're somebody who's strictly Brix, what I will say about the Brix is that it's not only picking up the sugar, it's also picking up other minerals and nutrients inside the tomato. So if the tomato is generally low, yeah, it's generally going to tell you it's a low sugar tomato, or at least for that year. But it's also might be indicating that you just didn't have enough nutrients in the soil to bring that indicator up. So that means your soil might be depleted, and that means you need to remineralize your soil. You need to take your soil to get tested at a your local extension. They'll tell you what minerals are depleted out of there. You can go to that route and then just replenish those nutrients inside the soil. They'll actually give you the recommendations and the product you're going to need to balance that soil, and that does happen. What I do in generally is I just dig really deep, and you could do this for quite a while. You could do this for a couple decades. You just dig really deep. Normally I just turn my soil 12 inches down every year with new compost and everything, but the compost isn't carrying the elements. You need to get to the dirt, and that dirt is down deep, and you need to get down deep where those minerals really are. And you got to turn that back into the soil a little bit. That will help balance your soil. You just got to go deep with the soil and then add your lime and your other stuff and your compost and everything, and you pretty much revitalize that soil. So the purpose of the Brix is for people who are trying to buy tomatoes that are high sugar and they want to be in a certain Brix number. That's why I provide you with the Brix. Other than that, it doesn't really tell you much more than what I'm already telling you with the charts that I show you, like over here. It's not gonna. I pretty much cover that already. But the Brix, some people want to know what the Brix is on it, and that's why I do it. So anyway, Here it is. Let's squeeze a little juice on there. Let's see what we got in the bricks. All right, this one's about 6 on the bricks. That's actually good. It's above 5. Generally, 5 or lower is not really favorable for tomatoes, but sometimes lower than 5 will still have a slight sweetness to it, but the tangy, it really has a very pronounced. I find that oftentimes the tangy part of it is really pronounced with the tomato flavor itself. It infuses itself in a way that makes it very unique. So not always having a non-sweet tomato is no good, or not, not worth investigating anyway. So let's give this one a try and give it a go. Very, very nice. Very nice. There is a slight sweetness to it, a milding effect. It's not necessarily, I don't know, it's strange. That's a strange effect I'm getting from this. Nice tomato, actually. Really like this one. Okay, just let the flavor build for a second. And while it's doing that, I can come over and begin to go over my my little chart thing here. All right, so let's maybe pull you down a little bit, like that. Okay. Okay, so let's start with the sweetness. Sweetness wasn't really that low. I actually tasted a little bit of sweetness. The flesh wasn't like a bland, tasteless type of flesh. It actually had a little bit more sweetness than the indicator was actually giving me. So it does have a I don't know if it's a sugary type of sweetness, but it had a nice sweetening, milding, balancing type of an effect. That's the best way to put it. And if I was to give that a number, I'm probably going to put that somewhere around, I'm going to say somewhere around 23 on the sweetness. It was up there. It wasn't quite low. Anything lower than 20 is generally really hard to even detect. It's just gets, it's just not there really, basically. So if I'm telling you at 20, 23, somewhere in there, it was low but still detectable. All right, so that was for the sweetness. For the tanginess, we're about 30 on the tangy, maybe about 31 on the tangy. It was a little higher than maybe 30 on that. It was nice and rich. It also had a slight tardiness to it, which is the part that makes your mouth pucker a little bit. So it had a slight tardiness, but it was fine. It wasn't off-putting or anything. So the tangy, I would probably say, like I said, around 30, maybe 31, somewhere in that range. Moisture was very moist. It was, if I was to rate the moisture from 1 to 10, 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest, I would say that moisture was probably somewhere around a 6.5. So it was a little bit above average. Average would be 5. So you were a little bit above average. But you need that moisture to really carry through to the tomato flavor, and that's what we're going to talk about now. So the tomato flavor was actually quite nice, very pronounced. It had a rich type of, typical type of plum flavor, but it had a very rich and pronounced flavor that really hangs around at the back of your tongue, and I like that in the tomato. I'm really looking a lot more for that because I'm actually making a lot of sauces with these tomatoes, so I'm really looking for that rich tomato flavor more than the sweetness. Sweetness is good, but I don't really care. I can always add sugar to sauce to give it sweetness if I want it. What I would need is the flavor of that tomato. That's what the part that transcends in the sauce. So this had a nice richness to it. And if I was to give that a number from 1 to 10, with 10 being the highest on the flavor part, I would say this was somewhere around a 6 for the flavor. 5 being about average or, right in the middle of the road. This was a little higher. It was a pretty pronounced flavor, and the intensity of it I would put it around 6. So it was good on the flavor. We're definitely good. Now the undertones, there was something going on with the undertones. There was a little earthy undertone there. It wasn't bad. It kind of came, hit the back of your tongue, and then gone. It wasn't sticking around. What I will find in some cases is that these undertones will transcend into your sauce. So you will start to get a little bit of these undertones into your sauce, and they will pronounce more as you combine them with other tomatoes that have undertones in them. So just keep that in mind that this did have an undertone to it. Wasn't bad. It wasn't really earthy. but it had like a slight undertone. If I was to give this a rating from 1 to 10, 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest, 5 being overwhelming in contrast with the tomato flavor, I would probably say that the undertone was about a 1. It was very low, but there was something there. I try to mention that so you know that there might be a little bit of an undertone. It's not going to. It wasn't bad, and it wasn't even off-putting in any way. It was actually pretty nice, but it will transcend into your flavor of your sauce. So if you don't want any undertones into your sauce, well, maybe this wouldn't be a tomato that you'd want to use. In general, if you're making like sauces for commercial like reasons, or you got all kinds of guests and serving all kinds of people, I don't recommend using tomatoes that have a strong undertone to it, because that undertone will transcend into the sauce, and you generally don't want to do that. So, if it's for yourself or your family and you guys are okay with it, that's good. That's you're fine. But as far as the plant part of it goes, the plant's highly productive. I mean, I'm probably going to get maybe 10 or 15 pounds worth of these tomatoes, maybe even 20 pounds. I mean, the thing is absolutely loaded with tomatoes. I'm just picking these off early because of the birds are blasting holes in my tomatoes. So I got to get these tomatoes off the plant. As soon as they start turning a little bit orange, boom, they come right off. I can't leave them on the plant because the birds are blowing them up on me. So I got to get them off, and that also gives me an opportunity to try to get these reviews done a little early, as I got a lot more tomato varieties to review, and the peppers are starting to come in, and that could be a little bit much. So it is a highly productive plant. The plant itself got literally to probably a 7-foot tall plant, and it just started laying down all over the place, branches coming out everywhere. There's tomatoes literally everywhere from this thing. I mean, it literally made an absolute ton of these tomatoes. So they're very good, very, very, very good producer. And what I think it'd be good for, I mean, again, my reviews are really based on eating them raw. Once you start to cook them into sauce, it's going to taste like tomato sauce. You know, it's you know what I'm saying. You're generally going to, a lot of this stuff goes out the window when you're going to cook the tomato. When you're eating them raw is where it really, all this stuff is really going to matter. But if you cook it, you're pretty much turning it into tomato sauce. It's going to taste, fine, almost no matter what you do. What is it good for? Definitely salads. I definitely say salads. Definitely say sauces. Some people like to make tomato paste for some reason. You could probably use this as a paste tomato because there's not that much in seeds in there. It's an all-purpose tomato, to be honest with you. I mean, you're not necessarily going to use it for slicing or anything like that for your hamburgers, but you can if you want to. Just get a fillet knife and slice it really thin slices, and you can put like a layer of tomato very thin on the top of your hamburger, and you're good, or your sandwich or whatnot. So it's a really good all-purpose tomato. Yeah, you can pick up the seeds at hrseeds.com, and they should be available by the time you get to that link. If not, you're just going to have to wait a little bit until we can build the page for it, and then, upload the quantities and get the whole... That takes time to do, guys. These pages can't and get built and rushed out in 10 minutes. That doesn't happen. It takes a half a day to a day, sometimes a couple of days, to build a page for one of these varieties. So a lot of times got to go into building the web pages. So just got to have patience. They will be available soon. And, if they're not ready when you check, then check back, and they should be ready by the next time you come back. All right, so that was it. That was your tomato review for the Black Dragon. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.